Me. Last time I did this, I kind of turned it this way, right? So that we had. It's more interesting. Wow. Okay, so we are now recording. Welcome everybody to the meeting of the CB3 Landmarks Committee. We have some interesting topics to take up today. I'd like to begin by just acknowledging the work of our preservation organizations in our community. I think you guys are amazing. And both of the topics on our meeting tonight have come about by grassroots efforts by members of our community and the organizations they belong to. Village Preservation, LESPI, and East Village Community Coalition. So you guys are unbelievable. The first topic on our agenda is approval of the minutes. We just keep admitting people to this meeting while we do that. Yes, okay. Let's see, we have Mitchell and me. Oh, Carolyn, you made it, good.
Carolyn is there,
Huh?
And Sandra.
Sandra's here, I know. I think not David. Right, David was gonna come in by phone. So David, if you're here, make yourself known. All right, so we have what we have. So may I have a motion and a second to approve last month's minutes?
I make a motion to approve last month's minutes.
Thank you.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That's done. All right. So the first topic on our agenda tonight is let me get down to my list here. It's the initiative regarding the National Register listing of the 2 buildings in the East River Park. And we have Richard and Deborah presenting, and you guys, I'm going to make you hosts so you can. It's one.
Linda?
Host.
This is David Adams. I finally got in.
David, I'm so glad you made it.
Yeah, I can't see anything really, but I hope I did you have the roll call yet?
Yeah.
I wrote.
It's okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, David.
I had trouble logging you. I wrote down the wrong number and had to go back a few times to get the right one.
Okay.
But I couldn't see it as okay.
So this
Whatever.
This presentation is coming from LESPI, and we have Richard Moses and Deborah Y. I don't know how you guys are going to divvy things up. You're both co-hosts.
Okay.
Yes.
Should we share the screen then, Linda?
If you'd like.
Okay, share. Okay.
The opening roll call, thank you.
Okay, so Richard was going to start, right, Richard?
Yes, here we go. So good evening, everyone, and thanks, Linda. I'm Richard Moses from the Lower East Side Preservation Initiative, also known as LESPI. And last February, we reported to this committee on our New York State Historic Preservation Office application for the historic East River Park Track House and Tennis Center Comfort Station. And now I want to provide you an update and review the results. In 2019, LESPI was invited to be a consulting party for the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, dealing with the East River Park reconstruction for flood protection, which I know most of you are familiar with. After initially focusing on the East River Park's Fireboat House, which was already listed as eligible for the state and national registers of historic places, we turned our attention to the Track House and tennis center comfort station, which you see on this slide here, two distinctive structures from 1938 that are threatened with complete demolition in the current East Coast resiliency plans. Unfortunately, these buildings were not flagged as historically or architecturally significant during the environmental impact statement phase of the project. After reviewing the building's fine architecture and researching their history, we decided to bring them to the attention of the New York State Historic Preservation Office, also known as SHPO, as potentially eligible for listing in the state and national registers of historic places. We received additional support for listing the structures from 8 local preservation organizations. Last month, we were thrilled to receive the SHPO's positive determination of eligibility for the building's architectural and historic importance. Our hope is that this will help in our efforts to save the buildings now slated for demolition. So here you can see that some of the most, and can you just go back to the list?
Yeah,
for
sure.
some of the most prominent of the citywide and local preservation organizations are amongst the supporters of this listing of the buildings. Okay, thanks. Next slide, please. Okay. Here you see the two buildings, the track house near East 6th Street at the top of the screen, and the tennis center comfort station between Rivington and Delancey Streets at the bottom of the screen. The SHPO's assessment valued the, quote, high degree of integrity of the two structures with original materials both inside and out, and their hip roofs, massing, scale, form, and window patterns, all intact from the original construction. The SHPO noted the historic aspects of the buildings as part of the wave of New Deal construction accomplished under Robert Moses and Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia. But the main focus of the SHPO's evaluation was on the building's architectural distinction, as designed by Amar Embry II, lead architect for Moses in the 1930s. The buildings combine both Art Deco and modern classical elements in a style often referred to as WPA moderne. The SHPO also remarked on the fact that the buildings remain in their original locations. My fellow LSP board member, Deborah Y., who carried out phenomenal research on these buildings, will walk you through our slides.
Here you can see in this historic photo that the tennis center comfort station is here in the foreground, and the track house is way back here in the distance. This circular structure is no longer there, but the area around it is. This slide shows the track house and how it looked when it was first built and how it looks now in the bottom right. The only difference is really in the backgrounds, where the tenements can be seen in the 1939 photo, and today there is public housing. SHPO noted the distinctive 3-part structure of this building, accented by 2 chimneys at the ends and an unusual stone cupola at the center. Here's a closer look at the cupola, which also shows a detail of the blue terracotta frieze with the Greek key design alternating with rosettes. This is the water side of the building. The other side faces the FDR Drive. It's a little difficult to see here, but the entrance doors are bracketed by curving walls, which you see here, which are very characteristic of Art Deco buildings. Art Deco elements are also found in the spandrel panels beneath the windows. You can see here. Here's a closer look at one of the terracotta panels with its stylized waterfront motif, including fantastical fish, vegetation, and water, all in rhythmic patterns. This is the ladies' room at one end of the building. Even here, the sensitive placement of the elements makes a harmonious ensemble. You can see the original slate tile roof, the frieze, and the decorative terracotta door surround. Here's a detail of the distinctive motif around the door. It recalls the maritime past of this area, just as the spandrel panels beneath the windows refer to the waterfront. You see the design at the left and the clear reference to something used in shipping called a marine anchor bow shackle. Another feature that SHPO called out is the use of pilasters to articulate the corners of the three-part building. Such pilasters are typical of the modern classical buildings of the 1930s, particularly as seen here in conjunction with the Greek key design in the frieze. Now we'll turn to the Tennis Center Comfort Station, located between Rivington and Delancey Streets. Again, all original materials are found here: limestone cladding, terracotta trim, slate tile roof, and glass block windows. Such glass block windows are often found on Art Deco buildings. Here's a picture from 1939, and nothing has changed. You notice the same motif in the door surround, but here the frieze is different. It's a beautiful blue terracotta sprinkled with stars, which may reference nighttime navigation for ships. Here's a closer look. You can see here that some cleaning and some slight restoration work would be a help. I'm showing you here on the right the interior of the tennis comfort station as it is seen today. You'll notice the glazed wall tiles and the floor tiles. On the left is an early photo of the comfort station in the park. The materials are the same as you see today. The integrity of the interiors of both the Tennis Comfort Center station and the track house was considered significant in the SHPO evaluation. In conclusion, I want to note that these are the only two remaining buildings of 5 such structures that once populated East River Park. It seems imperative to Lesby that we not lose these as distinctive links to the past and as two of very few examples of Art Deco buildings on the Lower East Side. We're open to any ideas that might serve to mitigate the effects of the planned new construction, which could include raising the buildings and adaptively reusing them. So thank you.
If anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them if we can.
Yes, I do. Now that the buildings have been determined eligible for the state and national register, I assume there's going to be state and/or federal money and licenses for the East River Park reconstruction. So have you been in touch with the SHPO at all in terms of Section 106 and how that will play into the fate of these two buildings?
Yes, well, from our understanding, we were in touch with them. They didn't provide us a lot of detail on what they're doing right now, but they did say that they were reaching out to the city administration and going to work with them on possible routes to remediation. Unfortunately, state and national register listing, as opposed to eligibility, really requires that the owners are compliant with the listing. So if the city doesn't want the buildings to be listed, they won't be listed. And the SHPO's role is really advisory here as well at this point. So it's a little bit sketchy, but it seems as if there's not a lot of teeth in this designation, except for hopefully to guilt some of the parties into doing the right thing and having some kind of a meaningful mitigation for these buildings.
Yeah, you said that the fire station is listed.
It's also was considered eligible.
Oh,
Yeah.
If I could just jump in, I think the distinction is that the fire courthouse is listed as an architectural resource on the environmental impact statement, but these buildings were not. And it's that omission that caused us to conduct a survey and ask the SHPO to take another look at the buildings. So that we're pleased that they've agreed that they are valuable buildings and that they are recommending that the city consider mitigation along the lines of the Section 106 process, but we just don't know the outcome. So we're hoping to go to Parks and ask for a resolution from Parks, which has been really working on this project, to consider the adaptive reuse, preservation and adaptive reuse of these buildings, to recommend that from the city. That is our next step. But we also, you know, obviously we know that there's support here for the work, and we're just interested in hearing from the committee what you recommend at this point of other courses of action for us.
And we do want to get the support of, you know, the local elected officials and, you know, at some of the other organizations going forward to push the city to do the right thing here.
Well, that was pretty interesting. I got completely disconnected.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I had to actually change computers.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
Did you guys finish your presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can go over with you sometime, Linda, if you like.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Sorry about that. At the beginning of this meeting, I neglected to ask that people, attendees, go in the chat and put in your name and affiliation so we have an attendance list. We don't have a way to pass one around. Okay, so does anyone want to say anything about this presentation? I'm sorry I got totally wiped out here, but if you would like to, please raise your hand.
I think it would be wonderful if
Olympia, you raised your hand. And you might be muted. I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Olympia, you can unmute yourself.
You're not muted, but maybe your microphone isn't working or something.
Yeah, I just tried to do that.
There you go.
Yeah, so I just took off my microphone, and maybe you'll hear my kids in the background. So, so I had a question basically based on what they were discussing after the presentation that you were not here, about what they're pursuing here. And I'm wondering, since now you have this evaluation, should you also pursuing to hear the New York City landmarks to have a meeting around this and give some sort of I don't know, comment about this situation?
It's a good question. We actually approached informally the Landmarks Commission about the buildings, and really did not get a positive reaction. We didn't put in for a formal request for evaluation, but we kind of feel that the buildings are a little bit borderline in terms of individual landmark quality, and that's why we wanted to go, and being that this is such a political hot potato, this project, that you know, we wanted to go with the national and state register listing as the best way to you know, bring the buildings in some measure of recognition and protection.
Thank you.
Carolyn?
Well, you know, I think the buildings are great, and it's absolutely amazing that there is an intact. the interior as well as the
Amazing.
exterior.
Yeah.
I mean, that in itself, I mean, considering Sandy and what the devastation that it wrecked on so much of the neighborhood, it's absolutely awesome that those buildings are constructed so well that they withstood the whole force of that surge. The other thing that's an issue is what the Parks Department is currently proposing to replace them with is something else that are like rectangular blobs that are different colored. We were told that they're supposed to be playful, but they're like basically cement block rectangles. And these buildings are far superior to what they're planning to put in there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, if you look at the plans for the ESCR and the Parks Department and what they're proposing to replace them with, it's really frightening.
I hear you. Okay, anyone else want to comment? If not, we don't need any vote on this. I understand, and everyone should know that you all are going to make a presentation at Parks Committee in September, am I right?
We
Correct.
hope so.
It's the idea, yes.
Okay, so keep an eye on the agenda for that if you're interested in pursuing this with, you know, with the actual ESCR, which is what is all being done in Parks. So it's Parks that will need to write a resolution if they choose to do so. Okay, so we're going to move on then to PS 64. And let me just get ready here. It's interesting to wear so many hats. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And I don't know who's going to speak first. Is this Village Preservation?
Sure, I shall. Thank you so much, Chair, and as you share the screen with everyone, I'm Harry Bubbins. I am the East Village and Special Projects Director of Village Preservation, formerly known as Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. Thank you very much, Chair and the committee, for hearing this emergency request for August. I know you don't normally meet this month, and this is a joint request by our colleagues and team members with East Village Community Coalition and Lower East Side Preservation Initiative. And for our brief presentation that's coming up, I will be joined by Sarah Bean-Atman, our Director of Research and Preservation, Laura Sewell, the Executive Director of East Village Community Coalition, and Richard Moses, who you just heard from, President of Lower East Side Preservation Initiative. So I can't see the presentation myself.
You can't?
I can't, no. I don't know if I'm alone
Can
in
anybody
that.
see it?
No.
Perhaps I didn't share the screen yet. That's a good reason.
And thank you to everyone in the public attending today. I know you care deeply about this issue for many years.
How's that? Better?
Better.
Yes.
There it is.
Yeah, so as I said, this was a joint request to be on this agenda tonight. Again, thank you to everyone in the public for being here. We're going to go over together a very brief history, which a lot of people here know far better than me. We'll go over the conditions, past and present, of this hazardous and emergency condition building, and then the action steps we hope that the community board will take. Next slide, please.
So Sarah Bean-Atman, Harry just introduced me. I work with him at Village Preservation. Most of you already know, this is former Public School 64, one of the CBJ Snyder schools, which was very innovative in its time in terms of its design and allowing light and air for students. Who knew that would be a new idea? as well as specialized areas within schools. And this is the H plan design, again, allowing that light and air, which was a new way of approaching school architecture. Next slide, please.
Harry again, and what the history most people know is Charas El Bohio, the community center in the 70s when the building was taken over. And while there's not enough time tonight to go over the immense amount of programs and educational experiences that were offered, that was a critical resource for the neighborhood that was lost. Next slide, please. It was lost because then Mayor Giuliani sold it at an auction, very contested. I see some faces in the crowd that were probably present that day, sold for just a little bit over $1 million in 1998. Next slide, please. Sarah?
Yeah, and it was, as probably you all know better than Harry and I, it was landmarked in 2006 with huge community support. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. Well, just to take it further, the singer who owned the building at the time started to strip off some of the architectural detail even before it was landmarked in the hopes that it would compromise the integrity and therefore not get landmarked. If we're able, oh, there we go. Okay. Hi. Can we have the presentation, or is that no longer viable?
I think she actually dropped again off the Zoom.
Oh, wow.
She's having some computer problems. I don't see her anymore here.
Oh, okay. Harry, oh no, you're not,
Richard Moses is a host right now. If
oh,
Richard,
okay.
if you have the PowerPoint and you want to share it.
Well, I think we ought to wait just for her to get back on because
That's
she is
fine.
hosting the meeting.
How's
Richard.
everybody doing?
Richard, meanwhile, do you want to see if you can queue it up? You do have it.
Richard, do you have it?
He does.
And that may make it possible for Linda to stay on, maybe her
Richard,
computer.
Are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you, but also now with you in terms of voice. So yes, sorry, I was responding and not unmuting myself. So I have this, hold on, I'm going to share the screen. I think it should
And
work.
we can wait for Linda, but it might make it easier for her. Thank you.
And I'm just going to go through the slide.
Okay.
Again.
There we go.
So let me see where we are here.
If we can scroll down to where the building is starting to be taken apart. Thank you, Singer. We can continue. The gable end, little.
One more.
Yeah, so
Right
I
here.
just started to say that he started to strip it down in the hopes of it not being able to get designated, and didn't succeed on that end, but continued to leave the building exposed. We, Village Preservation, as well as other groups, had been in touch with both LPC and DOB throughout the years. I've only been with Village Preservation since the end of 2015, but it has been a continual back and forth with LPC about how the building has been left. Can I have the next slide, please? That shows some of the details. In 2016, actually, there were no windows at the top story. They were removed, and in March of 2016, the elements were literally getting in, and we were sending pictures to LPC about this situation. Next slide, please. And this just shows more details of the hazardous situation. And next slide, please. The structural issues, which clearly are being shown here in this picture.
Thanks, Sarah. And the quote from the Village Voice that you saw in one of the slides was something to the effect by the current owner that we start chopping it today. And you saw the tatters of the blue tarp, which has up until now served as the kind of protection and care for this landmark that has been evidenced by the owner. So fast forward to last year, many of you know, and I know Carolyn as well here in her wearing her hat as the Neighborhood Resident Association member as well. It was so bad they had to evacuate the adjacent buildings. They closed down East 10th Street. The fire department, Con Ed, and the Office of Emergency Management had to come on the scene to see what was going on in the building because of cracks. And I know we're waiting for Linda, but we want to respect everyone's time and carry on. I'm sure she'll understand. Next slide, please. So the Department of Building issued a vacate order in 2019, one that exists until today. And along with the vacate order comes orders to repair. Next slide. Unfortunately, there are, this is a little older version, but in any case, there's dozens of active violations, severe violations. Next slide. And this is from our online documents. For one, an eyesore and a magnet for garbage and darkness because the lights aren't maintained. The scaffold, that's a permit. The scaffold was applied for in 2006. The scaffold has been up since then. Obviously, the repairs and necessary improvements to the property have not occurred, hence the need for the vacate order, hence all the photos you just saw. And so that does not seem to have encouraged the owner to do anything. Next slide. Sarah? Or do you want me to continue?
No, I'm unmuted. After back and forth, LPC did, there was originally back in 2013, an order to repair, a permit to repair, which was never executed. In 2019, the order to repair was issued. And this, next slide, please, does come with the threat of daily fines of $5,000 a day, which to our knowledge has not been applied. Next slide, please, Harry.
Sure, and I think that $5,000 a day potential fine from the LPC is not a typo. I think it goes to show the importance of taking care of our landmark structures, as well as the possible dangers and hazards that can accompany an older building being left to decay. And so that's a lever of power that the city has at its disposal, which we're not aware it's been utilized yet. This is an older slide. This just goes to show that the owner has utilized different kind of filings. The loans have been taken out, which I don't know if this presentation is going to have. I might have to speak about it. Over $50 million in loans on the property, under getting financing for the property, calling it an apartment building, which the ACRIS document on the right shows, and yet the building is tax assessed as a school, which doesn't comport and just shows what potential lack of transparency that the owner has been representing. Next case, next slide. Please, thank you. And I just, before Laura jumps in here, there was a slide or two missing. I'm sorry about that. The owner, as shown on public documents, ACRIS documents, has taken out over $50 million in this property that they purchased for just over $1 million. They are in a foreclosure case. The lender, one of the major lender to them of $44 million is Madison Realty Capital, who you might have known also lent to Tolenato in the neighborhood, for those who are aware of the Tolenato Tenants Coalition, fighting for their rights. So Madison Realty Capital is currently foreclosing on the owner of the building for lack of paying the mortgage. In addition, and as of August 3rd, they were asking the court to continue the matter after the COVID pause. In addition, and I'm sorry, I edited the slide right before Laura goes now in the current condition, which is terrible. Since 2015 on public documents, the owner has paid over $500,000 in lobbying fees. This shows the priorities of what the owner has been doing with their money. And it seems instead of paying to fix the building and repair it and address the hazardous conditions, they had over $500,000 for lobbying fees, according to public records. So thank you. With that, Laura?
Actually, may I just jump in real quick? The situation with the youth breaking into the building, I reported to John Weiss at LPC back in, I believe, June. He immediately shared it with DOB. DOB said they did an inspection and they didn't find any such break-in. And there were a number of CCs to other DOB people. And then with Carolyn's picture, I sent this to DOB as well, saying, we see them clearly accessing the roof and damaging the building. And I have not, Village Preservation has not heard back from DOB since then. That was in July. Sorry, Laura, please go ahead.
No, thank you for that. So while the landmark has periodically suffered from vandalism and break-ins over the years, these incidents have really escalated in recent months. Residents have frequently observed varying groups of teenagers hanging out on the roof, straddling the parapet wall, climbing down the scaffolding at the 9th Street entrance. And again, there's a full vacate order on this building because of the conditions inside and erosion of fireproofing. So it's dangerous for them to be there. At different times, the kids have taken a pickaxe to the rooftop ventilation systems. They've used the tool to break up cinder blocks and bricks, which they then toss into the interior courtyard or into neighboring roofs, and there's video of this. They've used spray paint to graffiti the roof and parapet. You know, it's just typical teenage stuff, but some of it includes some hate speech that's unpleasant for neighbors to see every day. This past week, the pickaxe was discovered in the backyard of the Charlie Parker house at 151 Avenue B, which is adjacent to the building. It's adjacent to where you see the kids. We can move to the next slide if we can. So it's adjacent to where you see the kids hanging out. And, you know, it's clearly the same rusted pickaxe with only a bit of blue paint on the handle that the kids were using on the roof. You can go on to the next slide. Imagine finding something like this in your backyard. It's like out of a horror movie. You know, no one wants to call the police on teenagers, especially in the present climate. Our youth desperately need activities that are productive, not destructive, and there's not a lot out for them right now. The solution is to secure the building, to discourage these incursions and any further damage to the landmark. And Sarah has explained what happened when photographic evidence of the break-ins was forwarded to the DOB. An inspector found a locked gate, and that was enough. The considers the premises secured. The police have told us that they're not able to enter without a warrant because of the locked gate, but the kids have no problem climbing the scaffolding, dropping down into the courtyard and getting into the building. So, you know, who knows where this might end as they egg each other on to greater and greater acts of vandalism. And the danger of fire is very real and very present, always much a concern for immediate neighbors. If somebody were to decide to throw fireworks or light matches, and they're getting to the roof from inside the building. So it really is very much of a concern, considering what has gone on elsewhere in the community. And I think it's back to Harry.
Or Richard, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and as Laura mentioned, the threat of fire is very real, and you can see what happened to another Lower East Side landmark, the Norfolk Street Synagogue, 3 years ago, caught on fire because some teenagers were playing around in the building, and the building has subsequently been demolished and de-landmarked. So it was really a loss, historical loss for the community. And on top of that, during the construction around the kind of the clearing the site, one of the workers for the project was killed. So it actually, resulted in a death as well. So nobody wants that kind of thing to happen at PS 64 and Charas. And finally, you know, I think we have very, very basic requests for the city at this point, that we're looking for the city to secure the property so that teenagers and whoever else cannot enter and can't do any more damage to the outside. We want the Department of Buildings to go ahead and make immediate structural repairs and also secondary repairs as well to elements that, if they're not repaired quickly, would further deteriorate the building. Some of the areas that you saw earlier where the ornament was stripped off, that brickwork leaves the facade open to the elements and really accelerates the deterioration to the entire building, allowing water infiltration and possible future loss of material. So we need the, we want to see the developer fine $5,000 a day and apply a lien to the property as per the you know, city rules and regulations. And finally, we want the city to reacquire the building for the community. As everybody, as was mentioned before, it was a community center for several years before being sold by Giuliani. And the city, the East Village community certainly needs and deserves a community center. And there's no reason why this can't be given back to the community as promised by the mayor before his reelection. And so, again, this is one of the most historic buildings in the community, and also has a very close place in people's hearts for many reasons, and has not been treated the way it should be by the city, including really the Buildings Department and the Landmarks Preservation Commission, because in our view, the proof is in the pudding. You know, they can say that they're following procedures and they're doing inspections and they're contacting the property owner. But when you see a building in this condition, and it's been in this condition for so many years, there's really, you know, no excuse on the part of these agencies that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, not just ideally, but by following the letter of the law of what they're responsible for. So, does anybody else have anything else to add in conclusion?
The only thing that I would want to add is that there was one suggestion from a resident that the community board write a letter to the lender describing the sorry condition of the building, the vandalism and trespassing that are allowed to happen. It's another action item to potentially consider that I think just didn't make it into this earlier draft of the presentation, and I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle. Thanks.
Any luck at all, I'll stay here. Well, believe it or not, my first computer lost its Wi-Fi access, and the second computer just crashed. So I hope it doesn't crash again. This is not good.
No.
I have one more computer. I guess I should get them all up and running. Anyway, hopefully I'll be here. And to start the discussion, should be discussion by committee members first. And would you please raise your hand if you want to discuss?
Just a minute.
Believe it or not.
How do I raise? I have to raise my hand.
Who's raising their hand? Carolyn, are you?
Yes, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm trying to get there to do it.
Because I think you're the closest neighbor to this building, and I think it would be great if you would.
Yes, I raised my hand.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I live immediately across the street from Charas El Bojillo. I used to organize block association meetings in the building when it was still occupied by Charas. The condition of the building and what's happening to it right now represents a threat to the lives, the welfare, the property of everybody who lives around this building. It is an utter disgrace that the city is allowing this to go on. The city, we wrote from the Block Association, complete with images, in April of 2019. We received a notice from a letter from the Landmarks Commission saying, oh, you know, he could be fined up to $5,000 a day. He's never been fined $5,000 a day. They seem to think that it's been sufficient that he put up 2 heavy-duty black tarps on the areas of the building on 10th Street, that was sufficient to meet their requirements. Then you look at the other dormers that are covered with that tapestry of blue tarp that blows in the winds, that he's destroyed and damaged all the gutters on the building, both on 9th and 10th Street side. The kids are using the scaffolding like monkey bars. I've counted 9 kids at least on one occasion that looked like they were between 12 to 14 years old coming out of the building, like marching up, climbing up, kind of hopping over the scaffolding. We've all been taking pictures. It's scary to think that somebody is actually taking a pickaxe and tearing the building down from the roof up. They've knocked all the chimney pots off the chimney and are taking the bricks out of the chimney. I mean, it's sort of like unbelievable vandalism. I mean, it's like, why? And we sit there and we watch it. I've notified DOB, I've called 311, I've called the police. You know, we filed complaints, I've written the community board. We organized a town hall where we had 99 people come to the town hall to express concern about the building and how they would like it returned to our neighborhood. And it seems to be frozen in a moment of time and that no one takes any action. And it's like a horror story. It's waiting for something to happen. And I think that we need to try to draft either a resolution asking the LPC to move forward with demolition by neglect action against Singer. He's allowing this to occur. Okay, I think it's a great idea to notify the lender. But in the meantime, we're stuck living here. DOB needs to issue a warrant that the police department can enter the building. The building needs to be secured. That, Laura, do you have that photograph handy that shows the area where Charas is in the whole area of the block, the aerial photo that's available?
Excuse me, just let me interrupt for 1 minute. Carolyn, please hold in your head the question of the police's ability to access the building. We do have a draft resolution, but that is not in it. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Laura.
You know, I can look for that, Carolyn, but I don't have it handy.
Okay. There's an aerial photograph that shows the location of Charas and all of the buildings that surround it and the number of people's lives who would be affected if that building caught fire. Okay. The fact that there's a vacate order on the building means that the fire department will not enter the building. Okay. It's tragic that we're allowing a New York City landmark to be demolished in front of our eyes, and the city is absolutely taking such minimal action to protect it. I don't know how to say it any stronger than that, but it's just sort of like, it's a real assault on our community that they're doing this. They need to get it together and do something.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to let anybody else who wants to raise their hand and speak to do so, but I have a request, and this is because of the annoying behavior of my computers. If you put your information into the chat before, would you do it again? Because when my computer crashed, I lost the chat. Now, anybody want to raise your hand? Olympia.
Thank you. So thank you guys for the presentation, and thank you, Linda, for hearing this. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I do have a window in front of Charas El Bojillo. And I wanted to show you that actually one of the things that is missing in the recent pictures is this brand new graffiti that I've been watching the last 2 months. And that is on fourth floor, third floor. So basically they have to have access somehow that high to do this graffiti. And also what I want to show everybody, and it's the top windows. Every afternoon, when there is a little bit of wind, there are broken pieces of glass that they tilt, and they send signals into my living room. And this has been happening for before COVID. And I called 911 because that was around the time that the lady died when a debris fell from the building. And I have serious concerns that with the wind, these pieces of glass can fall on someone passing below and hurt them. So I talked with 311, I filed a complaint, 911, and they did send NYPD, and they called me, and they just didn't do anything. This thing still tilts every afternoon and sends lights to me when there is wind. And this is like real danger.
You're
and
right.
I don't know, I'm happy to hear that you are drafting a reso today. My complaint has a number, I passed it to Susan Stetzer. But every afternoon, I'm afraid that if the wind blows a bit extra, somebody may get hurt, seriously. And so again, thank you for writing this reso. Thank you to all of you for doing this work. I think, of course, as an architect, and as a community activist, I have a lot of reasons to love this building, etc. But right now in the COVID era, it is really a matter of safety of a lot of people, the casual passerby, the people who are living near that. And so this is too negligent. They need to do something about this.
Yeah, that's another new one on us. Keep that in your head till when we write the resolution. Olympia, one thing you may not know is on the Landmarks Preservation Commission's website, there's a violation form. And anytime you see a violation it's in New York City landmark, and we see lots of them on this building, go on there and fill out one of those forms. Let's harass them a little bit. That is a violation, and they're not addressing it. So.
Thank you. I'll do my homework.
Yeah, it's a very simple form. It's no big deal, right? I'm sure many of you have used it. Okay, anyone else want to speak? Sandra?
Yes, I think that the letter to the lender is a great idea. That way, if he's already gotten $50 million, the owner, on based on it being a residential property, which it isn't, right? So I think hitting him that way, that would make him at least stop and think. But what I want to say is, I think we should get the elected officials involved as well. I think a letter should go to them and get their support as well. Has that been done? I know Carolyn had a town hall.
Many times,
the elected officials, and
nothing's
been done.
They will all get a copy of this resolution. I'll be sure that is part of the, there's a little part in the bottom that says send to. We'll make sure they all get it.
Okay. I'm just surprised that no one has done anything to support this, that this has been going on so long.
Well, some of the people who've been watching this for a very long time can maybe speak to that. I mean, I think some people have tried, but I don't live in that neighborhood, so I'm not as up to date on the day-to-day happenings.
Right, me either.
Well, Chair, since you
thank you,
mentioned
Olympia. I wanted to say thank you also to Olympia, and Carolyn. I mean,
absolutely.
You're right there witnessing it. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Does anyone else care to speak? Please raise your hand.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Who am I hearing? Richard?
Harry.
Harry?
This is
Okay.
Harry speaking. Yes, since you mentioned, thanks, Sandra, for those important points about the letter to the lender, making them aware of it in case they're not aware. And as far as the elected officials go, many people have been involved doing different things to the best of their ability. Our hope with this agenda item and this hopefully forthcoming resolution is to, armed with that, to go to the elected officials and point out how Community Board 3 has taken a strong stance in support of these action steps. It's been, now there's the vacate order, now there's the order to repair, now there is the authority of the city to go and fix it themselves and bill the landlord and all the other action steps. So in following up what you're saying, we're hopeful, armed with the resolution from CB3, a strong resolution, that the elected officials and their staffs who are here today, I see some of them, thank you very much, will be pressing the city all together.
Thank you.
And Richard, I just sent you that aerial photo that Carolyn was requesting, if you're able to share it, because I'm not a co-host.
I can make you one if you like. That's easy to do.
Okay, either way.
Whichever one of you gets there first.
Yeah, I have it here. Let me just pull it up. Let me see here. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think what's really important about this image is that it shows the densely populated neighborhood that surrounds this building and the residences that, it would be such a tragedy to lose a beautiful building, but it would be a far greater tragedy to have people made homeless or killed because of actions that are not being taken by the city.
Even the vandals that are getting in there are in danger because that building is not, this stuff is going to got to be falling off the ceilings and the walls inside, and they could be harmed. So
if they're taking a pickaxe to the roof and knocking the chimney pots off,
yes,
and taking bricks out of the chimney, what do you think they're doing inside?
Right. Right.
I mean, the graffiti is mild compared to the actual physical damage that they're doing. The other thing that's noticeable is that the copper flashing over the entrance on the 9th Street side has been flapping and blowing in the wind for God knows how many years. I've called complaints. I've called Rosie when she was the council person. If a piece of that flashing breaks off and flies down the street, it could behead somebody.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they're literally like little pieces that wave in the wind every time there's a strong wind.
Okay, that's great. I like this photo a lot. It really puts it in context.
Yes, it does.
If somebody would forward it to me, I'd appreciate it. Don't have to do it right now. Okay. Anybody else care to? Now I can't see raise hand, so you'll have to just start speaking if you want to speak.
Yes, I'd like to know what is the expected planned follow-up for the proposals being made to the city. I guess, Harry, your office will be doing that. How will you follow up with the city? How can more pressure be put on them?
Well, we will be submitting a resolution, which will go to the full board of the community board and be approved there, I'm sure. And that will definitely have some weight. We haven't really done that, or not in a long time. We haven't had a resolution. So I have some hope that will get someone's attention, and that's why we're doing this. Anyone else care to speak? Shall we move on to the resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to attempt to share it. Let's see, without my computer blowing away again. Okay, can people see it? Oops.
You have to read it.
Hmm?
I can't see. This is David. You have to read it. see it, so I hope it's not too long.
Oh, for you, it's very long. A lot of it, David, I don't think you need all the long list of whereases. I don't really.
Just as there for us.
Yeah, but I do want people who are here, not only committee members, usually resolutions are edited by community members only, but I do feel that the groups who've been working on this deserve to have a say. So, you know, if you have a thought about something that should be added, the first part of all these whereases is essentially a history of what's happened with the building. It goes on and on and on, whereasing all the history, which you all probably know. Well, let me skip the whereases and go to the therefores, and then we'll see if we need to change anything. So, therefore be it resolved, CB3 recommends the following actions. DOB properly secure the building and make emergency repairs and bill the owner. LPC take legal action to compel repairs and issue the maximum fines retroactively and moving forward. And 3, place a lien on the property and send a letter with this resolution, if passed, to the lender of the owner to make them aware of these issues. I'm going to take it. Take it past.
You don't have to say it.
I'm sorry?
You have to say it fifth.
No, I'm taking that out. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. I took it out, David. Be it further resolved. Thank you. Be it further resolved, CB3 reiterates its call made in a resolution in 2013 requesting that the de Blasio mayoral administration return the former PS 64 school building to the community by legally retrieving and then selling or giving it to a well-established not-for-profit organization with a long history of serving the people of the Lower East Side East Village, including but not limited to restoring the not-for-profit organization known as Charas El Bohio to the building located at 605 East 9th Street. Now, Carolyn, perhaps this point about the police could go into this bulleted list.
Yeah, it would be helpful if it could be with the DOB and besides properly securing, if they could issue a warrant for the NYPD to be able to enter the building to stop the destruction.
Okay, I think that could be a separate bullet though.
Okay, but it seems like it should
DOB
follow
that has to
right
do
after
it.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, DOB is the one, according to the precinct, it's the DOB that has to do it.
Okay. DOB should, must, should. And what, say it again, please?
DOB must issue a warrant allowing the NYPD to enter the building.
Can they do that, or must the owner do it?
I mean, if the vacate order doesn't allow FDNY to enter, why would it allow NYPD to enter?
That's what the precinct told us.
Yeah.
Danger. I'm sorry, this is David. Is there a danger clause you could put in there due to danger? That for the public safety, therefore you could put get an order in?
Sure.
As Carolyn's pointed out, any fire there could create tremendous damage.
To public safety issues.
And hazard.
At the building, including, but not limited to,
Oh, I love that.
fire hazard, comma, DOB must issue a warrant allowing the NYPD to enter the building. Does that make sense, David?
I think so.
Okay,
Since I can't see it.
Right.
No, you have to have a good memory. As one who had 2 computers fail on her today, I have nothing that I can say to you about your computer situation.
Well, no, something, it happened, well, one of my air conditioners has like a safety thing in it that in a blue, and I think the same thing could have happened to my box. I'm going to come and put power to my box. My box has no power.
Well, that's no good.
So I have there's nothing's going to work. So that's my problem. They have to come and give me back. I have to come and repower my box.
Okay. Good luck for the next month. Barbara, you have your hand raised?
Oh, they're very responsive. As long as I try to get someone for 3 hours today in the line. I was very responsive. Don't worry.
Can you hear me?
Almost as good,
Wait,
almost
David,
as good as a citizen.
thank you. Okay,
Can you hear
Barbara.
me? Hi. I'm very happy that you included the part about putting pressure on the de Blasio administration. I want to emphasize the urgency of that because he's not around that many more months and he has made us a promise and we need to get that building back and restored to us. The part where you put to a community organization, I would state to a coalition of community organizations, which we have coalitions organized supporting the Charas resolution. But there are people who would represent the lost services that the community center provided to us for over 21 years, as well as the unmet needs expressed by the community on behalf, which our local community organizations through a coalition can express. And there were lots of studies done by Pratt. There were lots of community coalitions that were set up on this behalf. And I think that should be activated. And if the city purchases by eminent domain, and we need to keep pressuring de Blasio administration, that we need to put a coalition entity in charge of how this building is used.
Okay. I don't think in the landmarks resolution we can be that specific about what should happen to the building after it's purchased. We say it should go to not-for-profit organizations, but I don't think we should be too specific.
You put singular organization, so you should put coalition.
It says organizations, it's organizations.
Right.
I just didn't read it that way, sorry. Now, we do talk about, in one of the whereases just above this, that this building is the subject of a foreclosure action. Because if this man is not, among other things, he's not paying his mortgage. So it's really a shambles.
Linda, I have my hand up. Can I ask a question?
Ma'am. You may, indeed.
Thank you. So one thing, a small thing I would say in the first New York City DOB, just add the word immediately, because to be honest, we just had DOB set a wall between my building and 8th Street, between two buildings that are falling apart also, but those are private buildings. And DOB came and put the scaffolding and built those owners within 24 hours.
Right.
So I believe that's the kind of turnaround time we need to demand for Charas right now, because it's crumbling and somehow they think it's okay. I really have a concern about public safety here. Because there are people actually living under these.
So shall we say?
And make immediate emergency repairs.
Should properly and make immediate.
Right.
Immediately,
Emergency.
they should do everything, right?
Right.
They should before anything else.
It should be immediate.
Right. Immediate.
Thinking about the pickaxe being thrown off the roof. Okay, it could have killed somebody.
No,
Right.
it's a real hazard, and I don't know that we exactly made that point in our whereases. And I think we've talked about the damage to the building, but I don't think we've talked about the hazards.
Right.
That are
right. The exact dates that we started taking pictures recently.
Oh yeah, we did actually. Where's the president persisting consistently?
Initially, it was May 29th.
Danger and hazard to life and property. So we did say that.
Right. So shouldn't we add in the second, due to public safety and hazardous conditions? Carolyn said something about a piece of material that could fall off at any time and
it's
behead
the copper
someone.
flashing.
Yeah, the copper flashing. So we should say due to public, whatever, hazardous material. From the hazardous conditions, whatever.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
And
Anything
I
else?
also had a strategy question because I don't know when we send the resos to the various departments, and I'm happy that among the audience we have both representatives of Carolina Rivera and Harvey's office. But basically, because this, of course, is a building with huge history, and every time we say Charas, some people just roll their eyes. So should we have like a premise in which we say new urgent, you know what I mean? Like, do we have like a cover letter with the reso so that they understand that this is not us
If
talking
we
about?
want to say that, we should say it in the resolution. And it may be that there's enough of that up in the beginning that we didn't read in the whereases. This has got a long list of whereases. That's why I don't want to really read them because we'll be here all night.
Good, as long as we stress that there is new evidence for which they demands immediate action, you know, new hazardous things, whatever.
Okay, I think that's covered. So I do intend to specify that this should go to DOB and LPC. I think it should also go to the elected officials and even the mayor, although he doesn't care, obviously. But we'll send it to him anyway. And so that'll go to Carly.
Don't all the resolutions go out like that?
No.
Will the elected officials work?
No, they don't always go to everybody. You know, because I want a broader audience than would usually be the case. It would probably go to Carlina, but not further.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll specify all that, don't worry.
Linda,
Yes.
sorry, not to interrupt in the middle of the resolution, but there's also just a question about whether keeping the scaffolding up is something for, whether any of these issues might be something that could also be raised at transportation and public safety.
Right. There's an issue.
Be a little
that-
more specific here. You do think that the scaffolding itself is a hazard?
The problem is the scaffolding acts as shelter for the homeless. It also acts as monkey bars for the kids
Monkey
to
bars for the
access
kids,
the
yeah.
building.
Yes.
I would be more concerned with the condition of the sidewalk, that there's not, the lights aren't on, that it's hazardous for pedestrians, and that, you know, there obviously there is the potential for someone to throw something right now because people are getting in that would hit the street or blow off and hit people despite the sidewalk shed being there.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know that we need to interrupt this process for that, but I just am asking an opinion before we finish.
Could I make one suggestion? One of the things that helps to obscure the kids going into the building when they climb on the scaffolding is the signage that's attached to the street light, that it's right by the gate. And it's made it very difficult to document with photographs when you see them climbing over, because the signs help to obscure them.
Cute.
So if they would move the signs, that would at least be some help.
Whose sign is it?
It's transportation, it's parking signs.
Yeah. I think that's probably another thing that doesn't go in a landmarks resolution. I hear you though.
Well, no, if they could remove the signage to try to secure the building and make it safer.
I think Linda's right, that has to be evaluated as a safety issue, and we really can't do that.
Yes, we should go to the
transportation committee. Yeah, maybe they should put it on the agenda for the transportation committee.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a possibility.
Right, that would be
that's their
a double hit. Yeah.
Why not get a double hit? And you know, you can talk about the condition of the sidewalks. You can talk about, you know, the fact that the sheds are monkey bars. That's all part of transportation committee's charter.
Okay.
Is that also parks possible? Oh, you mean the playing around? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not real monkey bars. It's very funny, very funny. All right.
Yeah, but that's good. It's good.
Do we have enough here? Can we, or does anybody want to do one more thing before we pass this resolution?
I think it's good.
Okay.
I mean, the question is, do you want to have a stronger call as a bullet point to the de Blasio administration to reacquire the building, or to this thing that somebody said in the presentation about demolition by neglect? Is this, so then, sorry, I hear someone speaking, but I can't hear you very well.
You can't speak two at a time. It doesn't work.
It's peripheral to our request. How they treat it, I think, you know, we can't push too strongly on. I don't think we should push too strongly on that. That's peripheral. I mean, we can't tell DOB to buy the building back.
Right.
Well, actually, because the mayor made a promise to do it, we definitely are asking the mayor to keep his promise.
That you could do, but you can't do most. That's about as strongly as you can go, I think, on it.
Yeah, that's right. And essentially, you can't see that they'll be further resolved. But
what about the demolition by neglect? Because the LPC could move on that. They've gone after 12 different sites in Manhattan, if you Google demolition by neglect. There's a particular building in Harlem that they acquired through demolition by neglect. The Corn Exchange building there.
Oh, yeah, I remember that building. Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
That's we could point it out, but they have to decide that.
They have to decide whether to actually, they have not yet decided that this is demolition by neglect. Maybe we should say something about that. Because if it is, then they have certain tools that go beyond what they have here.
I thought it was mentioned in one of the therefores, whereases, I mean.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think it is.
I'm sorry.
Can I chime in here for a minute, Linda? It's Richard.
Richard, yes.
I'm wondering if perhaps there could be therefore that the city retain a qualified preservation engineer to thoroughly assess the building and identify, you know, any potential hazards, areas where the building has been structurally compromised, and areas where the exterior envelope has been compromised.
That's really good. Say that again.
Yes.
Type it in.
I can only say these things once, then they leave my mouth.
I know, they go right out and they never come back.
The city should retain a preservation engineer as soon as possible to thoroughly assess the buildings for potential hazards, for areas where the building structure has been compromised, and the exterior envelope.
Slow down. I got to assess the building for potential hazards.
Potential hazards for areas where the building has been structurally compromised.
Okay.
And the exterior envelope for points of water infiltration and potential water infiltration and degradation of the original building materials.
Potential water infiltration.
And degradation of original building materials.
Like it.
If I may, when they redid the rules, you know, what was it now, 2017? The LPC has on retainer two engineers who specialize in historic structures. It's actually mostly to deal with the row house situation, which, you know, is very pertinent in East Village and Greenwich Village, but they already have that on retainer. That was a new thing when they instituted the new rules.
Yeah, LPC has them on retainer for sure.
Yeah, but they didn't used to.
No, but they do now.
Yeah, they used to rely on DOB. So it's that should be already in
Say
place.
LPC and not the city here, right?
Beg your pardon?
I'm going to say LPC and not the city, since we don't want
Right.
DOB to do it.
LPC
They
has-
don't know what they're doing. All right, that's great.
Well, I would suggest perhaps doing the city/LPC, just so that if LPC is already maxed out on their budget for the fiscal year, or there's some kind of issue with bringing them in, that there's some wiggle room in terms of how the engineer gets retained.
Right. Yeah, I know when we were before the fire in Beth Hamerdash, this LPC definitely supplied an engineer. They were trying to save that. They really tried hard, actually. They didn't want to be fining the rabbi, but they definitely tried. They got an engineer in there. They thought they could stabilize it. Unfortunately, the trouble is if you wait long enough, the kids get in there and do their damage.
Linda, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think I can raise my hand because I'm a
You are not
co-host.
interrupting, just go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm a little unclear just as to the committee's intent on the fourth, therefore. So place a lien on the property would be the city place a lien?
That was a question that it should be the city. We don't know what agency does it. That's why it was a little bit vague here.
And then send a letter with this resolution to the lender of the owner to make them aware of these issues. I thought that was a request to CB3. Like
Send
maybe
a
they're
letter with this resolution to the lender to make them aware of these issues.
I think that was a request for CB3 to send a letter.
Well, I don't know whether CB3 wants to send a letter or not.
Okay. So I just want to make sure, I just want to know want to be clear on your intent. It doesn't,
Right.
if this reads as you intend, that's great with me.
Yeah. I don't think CB3's letter would have much impact. That should be better from whatever agency, probably, that is responsible. Department of Finance, somebody.
Hello?
Any further comments before we pass this resolution? I presume we're going to pass it. May I have a motion?
Hello,
Make a
Linda?
motion.
I would like to know, if you can say to send a copy of the resolution to the lender.
Yes. Oh, you're being specific about the wording. You got it.
Yeah, I don't think maybe you can't send a letter, but you can let the lender be aware of our resolution.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Can it go to the Speaker of the City Council as well? And can we change the language of as soon as possible to immediately?
Wait a minute. You mean the resolution?
Yeah. What you said you were going to CC to our elected officials. Can it go
Yes,
to
I
the
will definitely include the Speaker of the City Council. That's a good idea.
And also, can you change the language from retaining a engineer as soon as possible to immediately retain?
You were talking about the city here.
I think we better not say that. They're not going to immediately do anything. They'll claim they don't have a budget.
Right, but we'll just put a little fire.
Like maybe they can assign the city, someone from the city to do it.
Well, yeah, that's what
No.
we hope. That's somebody from LPC has engineers under contract. They'll do it.
Have cities, they have engineers in the city that can maybe able to do it for them.
Mhm.
No cost.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Barbara, you still have your hand up. Were you done? I can lower your hand. I just didn't want to. There we go.
I make a motion.
There's the sign that is blocking. The sign is blocking the documentation of the ongoing criminal activity. So, I mean, it's easier for people to take a picture of that and document it.
We already agreed that's going to go to Transportation Committee. That's not a landmarks issue. Sandra, you want to make this resolution?
Yes, I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution. All in favor?
Need a second. David,
Oh, a second, right?
all in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Everybody said yes, right?
Yes,
Okay. Sandra, Carolyn, David, and I all said yes.
yes.
Okay, pass.
Okay.
He also,
Pass.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work, Carolyn. Very appreciated.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Is
that's
there
it.
anything else on the agenda?
We're going to have a motion to adjourn. Which one
Did we adopt the minutes from last month?
we did. We did that at the beginning.
Oh, I forgot. Okay.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Second. Yes.
Everybody,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
All right, so the meeting is adjourned. And thank you very much. And thank you for whoever stepped in and finished presenting the PowerPoint when I blipped out.
That was Richard.
That
Thank
was
you,
Richard.
Our co-host Richard had it in his back
I
pocket.
was thinking, I'm so glad that I made some co-hosts because
Right.
My pleasure.
I think we'll always do that if my technology continues to fail me this way.
Okay.
All right. Have a good
Thank
evening.
All
you,
right. Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Okay. Stomach hurts. I need ice water.